Alrighty. Welcome to the Salon Podcast. My name is Hunter Ford.
Got Kevin over here.
I'm Drew.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Adrian.
And we're back again for another episode. I'd just like to start off by thanking everyone for the massive support that we got on our first episode. I'm pretty sure we were all kind of sidetracked by that, and it was definitely really motivating for continuing and doing more of this sort of stuff for you guys. Again, like I said on the last episode, make sure that you feel free to leave any potential ideas from next episodes, ideas that you had on the current episode that you're listening to, and so on and so forth. Today, Kevin decided that he wanted to take up the topic of discussion. He was pretty excited about doing this one. So, Kevin, what are we talking about?
Today we will be talking about social media. Many of you guys have heard of social media before and the different platforms it is, but to define social media, it's forms of electronic communication, such as websites for social networking and microblogging, through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content, such as videos.
To make it more relatable, Snapchat, Instagram,
Facebook,
I mean,
Twitter,
those are
LinkedIn,
examples
Discord.
of social media, but I want to make sure that people know what the actual definition is, which, by the way, I just read that. It's not like I thought about that off the top of my head. So that's the definition of social media. And just talk about what it is, good and bad things that come from it, and where do we go from there. How do you guys use social media, Drew?
Just to communicate with friends.
I post a lot of edgy pictures for attention.
I just scroll the popular page of Reddit. That's pretty much it.
I usually use it for like communication purposes.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we see here that for me, by the way, I just there's some funny jokes online. It's just really funny to look at, and that's what I do. Sometimes I make podcasts, which is kind of what we're all doing right here on social media. So some of the cool things that come with social media are, the opportunities that come with it.
Yeah.
You get to share about your personal stories, but you're also able to see what other people are doing and see what businesses locally are doing, such as Panera Bread.
Okay. Just because I applied for a job does not mean I'm going to get it. So jobs are a good way to find employment, especially in today's society where literally all jobs you go and email a resume or apply online on our website. And that's one good thing social media has brought us, and it also can expand to a wider amount of people that are probably better fitted for that job anyway,
Well, I think to kind of get the playing field straight right now, we plan on discussing the kind of pros and cons of social media, and more importantly, what we feel social media is affecting within society, and what we think it is either doing or not doing for us, and more importantly, how it is affecting our mindsets and how we go about communicating to each other throughout society, and how we feel about ourselves and our placement within society. So most importantly, starting off with the pros and cons of it. So like you said, the pros being access to certain things like jobs and potentials for job opportunities.
But it's not just job opportunities.
Oh, well, yeah.
We've also got things like, people make friends online. They are able to share, communities where people of similar, interests can just talk about what they really enjoy, along with relationships. We see this now with new apps like Tinder or something like that, or some things like that, where people genuinely find love on these applications. They get into a relationship, and they just hit it off. And even in long distance now, it's more feasible than ever before, just because of how close everything is online. Another thing is the instant information you can get from just sharing with others. So you can see some of your friends have gone to the beach or are planning to have a beach party, and then it's an open invitation. You're able to go along with it, and
it's gone so far as people don't even go to college because all the information is online on the internet, and that's what a lot of career-based fields are doing now. For example, Tesla, that Elon Musk would rather hire a high schooler, a guy who graduated high school, than a guy who went to 6 years of college, because the amount of information he already gained and already is like using and applying to this day is like surprisingly surpasses those of a college student, which is kind of insane because back then college was like, hey, you have to go to college if you want to be rich. And even today's society, we're like built with this thing saying, hey, you need to go to college. You will not pass life if you don't go to college.
Hold up, Elon Musk is hiring?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Elon actually does that?
Yeah, and so does what's his name?
Does he find
Ty
him?
Lopez. Fun fact.
Does he find him through social media?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
Do you know what the application process is?
no, I don't.
For inconspicuous reasons.
For
Yeah.
conspicuous reasons.
Yeah, but I feel like aside from, I mean, because I feel like the pros really don't even come close to outweighing the cons, in my opinion, at least with.
So you
social
think there's
media.
more negative aspects than positive?
Oh, most certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, most certainly. Aside from being able to, access information quickly, which we could do anyways by books, but I mean, obviously it wouldn't be as quick, but still, we still have another access of information. Being able to find jobs and what's going on around us that, aside from taking the time to actually go places and find said jobs, going out and meeting people versus finding people online, So it brings us a form of convenience rather than anything other than that. It doesn't really bring anything. I mean, aside from possibly news, which we already get anyways over television, but media and within itself, I think, just kind of sets up a platform for us to start rolling into this like conformist self and us making our self-identity one that reflects what society is playing and what society is doing,
Well, if we're talking about the good and bad of social media, what do you guys think about the Nielsen measurement? Which is basically like, how when you're like scrolling through Instagram and you see an ad for something you vaguely talked about or something you glanced at on Amazon or something, those ads, the targeted ads and everything, those are based on something called the Nielsen measurement, which basically records all your interests, all your activity online and stuff, and kind of targets those ads towards you in social media because that's where they know you're gonna be.
Right.
So would that be a good
Selling
or
cookies.
bad thing?
Yeah. So cookies.
Do you think that would be a good or bad thing?
Well, I feel like it'd be one of those things just to kind of lure us in deeper into just staying on media, just to capture us in and keep us going.
I'm going to say an unpopular opinion.
Oh, go for it.
I think targeted ads aren't necessarily that bad.
Okay, go for it.
I just think that if they're already taking your information because like you agreed to the terms of service and they can see what you're doing, if they're going to go ahead and like show you ads, because they're going to have to do that anyway to make money.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather see ads for stuff that I enjoy and are more likely to purchase than just seeing something that I would never even consider buying. Like if I'm talking about a concert tickets or something, I'd rather see discounts for those concert tickets than just like grocery shopping or something if I'm not
Me with
needing
Elton
it.
John tickets, I go online.
I mean, I think the
I go online.
Yeah.
An Elton John ticket is like $2,000 or $3,000. Then I see a targeted ad. Oh, $2,000 with like minus $10. That's a fat bet.
I think people are like, it's just a fear kind of thing when it goes to targeted ads because when they think their personal information is being out, they think like, oh my god, they already have my credit card number, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty much false. I mean, phishing ads like that don't get anything until you yourself manually send it to them or you already send it to a website that's not good.
Yeah, but I mean, aside from like being able to see something that you would like to see, because I'm not saying that targeted ads aren't good or bad, but rather just another platform way to keep us in tune to the internet and keeping us on the internet. Because if anything, it'd be like a redirection type thing, So in one moment you're on Instagram looking at whatever, and then you see an ad for something that you like. You click on the ad and then you go further in deeper into the internet. I mean, that happened to me the other day when I was looking up hoodies. I stopped looking at them and I was scrolling through Instagram and there's ads about like different hoodie companies and I was like, okay, dope. And so I spent more time looking at spending more time on the internet and looking at my phone, redirecting and finding things like clothing because of something like redirected ads. So if anything, even though it's not necessarily good or bad, but it's just one of those tactics to keep us going and keep us in tune to what's going on in front of our faces. And I would even tie that further into something like, kind of how we get out of touch with reality, and because we're so drawn into something like social media, and we're drawn into what's going on within the media, what's going on with celebrities and their lives, and how their lives are affecting the media. You know, kind of this round circle idea. You know.
I mean, it's. I think we can widen the spectrum about social media because it's not just about targeted ads, right? There's so many aspects of social media.
Cyberbullying.
Yeah, I was just about to get to that. Yeah.
Pornography addiction.
No, I was not going to get to that. I was going to go to bullying.
I mean, it's a fair point.
Just putting things out there.
Well, yeah. But bullying, for example, whatever. Bullying is now with this new age of being online, people are behind screens with some username Noobmaster69, and suddenly they're insulting your mom, and they're just insulting you in like the meanest way possible. And sure, it kind of hurts, and you can turn off the screen, but these people are ruthless, and for all we know, it's like some 10-year-old that just has nothing else to do. It's gotten to the point where people think that you can say anything you want online just because it's behind a screen. It's online.
That's because you can say anything if you want online.
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with. Well, it might have something to do with being anonymous, but that doesn't seem to be as big of a factor because you'll even see like celebrities and like political people. They'll go online and it's their public platform, and they'll still say those mean things, like to each other or about people in the U.S. And it's just like, well, that's not anonymous. There's still cyberbullying.
And even with the idea of cyberbullying and using media and the internet as a platform to harass others, it's really as easy as just logging out. And I mean, and I would even dare say that it'd be better for the victim in the situation to just kind of separate themselves from the media for a while and kind of just figure out themselves, because if they're already in a place where I mean, I'm not saying that it's right to target anyone for any situation, but if they're in a situation where people are easily targeting them and they're feeling down on themselves, their self-esteem's kind of just dropping, they're not feeling like they're themselves anymore because the person they want to be is obviously cast out and chastised by the people around them. Maybe it would be good to kind of avoid something that would tell you to be this certain thing, because this is what people are looking for within society. This is what society is saying is the cool thing to do. Taking that time to come back and really self-evaluate. Leaving media behind. Taking that time to kind of just sit back and be like, this is what I really feel about myself. This is what I'm placing mentally and physically. I feel like that'd be a good thing. So even though cyberbullying is bad, it could potentially root that idea of just maybe taking self-reflection and really understanding ourselves a little more, and figuring out to the point that we kind of get this comfortness within ourselves that something like people harassing us for the person that we are doesn't become as detrimental or as important to us.
To come back to what Kevin said earlier, he was talking about how there's groups online where you can come together and find similarities between yourselves. Even if you are being bullied, you can log out of that.
Right.
Service.
Going to what Drew was saying, there's a famous quote on the 31st of December 2012 by Tyler, the Creator. He says, "Ha ha 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 ha. How the F is cyberbullying real? Ha 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 ha. N-word. Just walk away from the screen like N-word. Close your eyes. Ha ha." I definitely agree with this quote due to the fact that it is true. You can literally close your eyes or turn off the screen. You can just leave.
Okay, but think about it though. As maybe now that can be something that we can just easily do, but as time progresses, even now, a lot of people, their jobs are dependent on the existence of social media on itself. Wouldn't it become more difficult as time goes on to just log off? Because a lot of people depend on that information, that constant, instant information, instant forms of communication.
I'm talking about cyberbullying, not leaving the internet.
Well, okay, but but that's the thing though. If you're just getting cyberbullied, and the whole idea is that you could just turn off your screen, then you have to cut off from the internet.
Yeah, you're sacrificing everything else. You're cutting off basically everything else that is probably beneficial from that form of social media.
Why don't you just log out from that one specific place you're getting bullied?
Exactly. You can literally just log out of Facebook. Dude, no one cares.
Well, we can take
I mean, okay, what's so important that I have to keep Facebook on besides, my grandma's birthday is tomorrow?
See, so it's that idea of what everybody's kind of saying about, like, you know, whether or not we log off or we don't log off.
Let's just block the person who's bullying
Well,
us.
well, that and I believe you said as society keeps progressing, it's going to be harder for us to get off. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, he was a transcendentalist writer during the 19th century. He wrote a lot about just figuring out ourselves and understanding ourselves in a deeper way that differentiates us from what society wants us to be, which is kind of what I've been bringing up this whole discussion thus far. He had a famous, like, small essay called Self-Reliance, where he talked a lot about, you know, why we follow societal trends, you know, why we follow religion, why we work so hard for things that are just going to be here still when we die, you know, it will moth and rust. And just a bunch of things like why we should follow other people when us ourselves are just as important and have just as much value as everybody else within a society. So in Self-Reliance, he said that love's not realities and creators, but names and customs. And this was when he was referring to conformity, the idea of us becoming what society wants us to be. So because it's so hard to log out, it could be the reason, you know, it's just us wanting to become something that we aren't, or it's us becoming this person that society will look at and accept. And that's probably what will make it so difficult further down the road to get off of society, or get off the internet and step away from that, because it's like, without society telling us what's good and what's bad, you know, we're kind of lost with our own self-thoughts, and us think, even though that's not a bad thing, you know, and us kind of just evaluating the world at face value. And so, I mean, this obviously doesn't have anything to do with cyberbullying, but more so the idea of us logging out and really just taking that step back. And I feel like that really is just coming from within, more so than it is coming from anyone else. And I mean, I guess it could sort of relate to cyberbullying with that idea that, you know, us evaluating ourselves and not focusing on what others believe, or what others believe is the right thing to live by, or the right thing to do, you know.
But isn't that with social media, we see how other people live and we can see, like, what their lifestyle is like, and we can interact with people we've never met before.
That, or we can emulate what their lives are, you know? So, like, if someone sees a celebrity and they like the life that celebrity's living, you know, they'd want to get up to that point that they're reaching, you know? That they would like to replicate what they're doing with their life so they can get to that same level of success, you know? So, for example, things like... I guess YouTube, you know, YouTube could be a pretty alright example for this. People see other people who are blowing up and getting really big on the platform, would like to replicate what they're doing, not necessarily the content, but the action of what they're doing, in for that same success, more so for their own, not necessarily their enjoyment, but rather for the success. You know, some people can be doing it for enjoyment.
We're on YouTube.
Okay.
Are you saying?
Are we doing it for enjoyment or success?
Well, I think we're doing it for enjoyment. I
Exactly.
I think we're
That's
doing
what I'm
it
here
for both.
for.
Yeah, I'd like
I
to
think we're doing it for both.
So then, what makes you say that other people aren't doing it for their enjoyment? You
Well,
can't base
I'm not saying
everyone's
no.
opinion.
If the shoe fits, wear it. You know, I'm not saying that everybody's doing it for the idea of I want to get successful, but rather they're doing it for enjoyment. Because I feel like what we're doing right now, we're doing for enjoyment. I know that I'm doing this for enjoyment. I'm not necessarily looking for success within this, but rather just us having a conversation and listening conversation within society. And I'm not saying that people don't go onto the platform, you know, trying to bring some sort of happiness to people with their content, but the majority could arguably be doing what they're doing for the idea of success, you know,
But
being able to
it's
get...
hard to argue that unless we actually know that's what the purpose is for. Just because, you know, for this it's a case-by-case study. Like, we have to look at PewDiePie. Is he doing it for enjoyment, or is he doing it for success, or is he doing it for both? Then we have to go to the next person, you know, like Mr. Beast. Is he doing it for success? Is he doing it for enjoyment, or is he doing it for both? And
Watch
this
Mojo.
you know, these cases are based
And
on...
that comes again with the
individual-
idea of, like, if the shoe fits, where is it? Where, you know? Like, if this scenario, like, is you, then, you know, I'm speaking to you. If it's not you, then, well, keep doing what you're doing and keep enjoying the job that you have.
So if it's not them, then they can enjoy social media. There's nothing in here.
But-
I think the problem is that we don't have the numbers to actually have a good
Well,
judgment
yeah.
on that.
This is
We don't
more so-
have like an
yeah.
actual like statistic where, hey, the University of Universities just made a study on YouTube where 5 out of 5 people are on social media. You know, so
I mean, I think it's just safe to say that the majority of, almost pretty much the
Human
world
beings on the planet.
have access to it.
Some form, yeah, at least. I mean, because in foreign countries they have like kiosk buildings where you can go in and rent a computer and do whatever you want on say computer.
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
have that here in America. We have internet cafes.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah,
In America,
but-
they're basically obsolete, though.
yeah, I mean, because
But like when I was at Colombia, for example, I mean, Colombia's not that great as the United States in terms of like standards of living. And I'm not trying to say something bad about Colombia, but over there, it's not that internet's like in every household. They have like down the street from where I was staying at, there was an internet cafe where they had like an Xbox, PlayStation, a Wii, and then they had like a real computers where you could be there for X amount of hours for X amount of money, and there you could basically do all your business. So like even in like these poorer nations, like social media is coming to them. We see in India too. Especially now recently, they're essentially becoming like the next United States in terms of social media, where they get things like T-Series, for example, which was the first YouTube channel to get to 100 million subscribers. It's you see,
Debatable.
well, it's really not. They were the first ones to get to 100 mil. But the point is that like these nations you wouldn't really think of when you think about internet. You usually think about the United States, North America, and then some of Europe. But now we're getting nations like India and all like these Asian,
Middle Eastern nations.
South American. Yeah,
Because
like
look,
so many
you were
people.
mentioning. So I'm gonna ask you something. In Colombia, in those I guess internet cafes, the computers when you log on, are they an anonymous connection? They would have to be, right?
Anonymous. What do you mean by that?
Like if you just go online, like the IP address, it's obviously like it's anonymous or a public IP.
oh,
right?
it'd probably be public.
So-
Because, I mean, because if
so
you
I
were to
think-
look something
yeah.
up, they can't track it back to you.
I think
Just be
one of the
IP.
biggest cons, especially in countries like semi-periphery nations like Colombia or a lot of Asian countries, there's a lot of misinformation because their access to social media and such is so limited.
So what do you mean by misinformation? Let's
Because-
define that first.
Well, because to them, since they're not, I guess, at the level of the news and stuff that the larger countries are, like their news outlets don't have the power that ours do because some of them are state run or some of them are like lobbyists, So
Now we're not gonna sit here and act like there's not tons of misinformation spread in America.
well,
no,
there is,
no.
but
I think if
but
anything,
what I'm
you're
talking
talking about
about
the
is
speed
it's
of
a lot.
information.
It's a lot less freedom over there. That's a whole different topic.
Oh, you're talking
It's
like
a lot
the
less
media is
freedom.
ran by the government.
Yeah,
so
it-
everything that the media publishes
Mhm.
is either for the government or it's nothing bad towards the government. Right.
But that mainly is determined by the government itself
Yeah.
rather than the social media.
I mean, but that could also beg the question of why is media such an importance that aside from like knowing what's going on with other nations, outside of that main bubble, why is it so important?
Because
Like,
it gives you freedom of speech.
But can't we do that right now? Aren't we doing that right now?
Yeah, but it gives you freedom of speech to a more public platform. It increases your sphere of influence. I can talk to someone from across the world, and they can tell me their opinions about their government, and there could be like little to no repercussions.
But I mean, think about wouldn't they have been doing that before internet was developed? Kids think about it. Freedom of speech has been instituted for a long time. So I mean, you don't think that freedom of speech
Not in
has
places
been?
like China. China.
But
has
I mean,
such
I'm talking
a
in
North
strict
Korea.
government.
But I'm talking more nations that have that
Russia.
freedom of speech.
Yeah, and they can now nations that have freedom of speech can now communicate with nations that have stricter governments that control what their people see and say.
Yeah, it's gotten to a point where like I think I don't remember which country it was. Like they banned YouTube altogether. I think it was Russia. Wasn't it Russia?
Maybe.
Well, it was
Right.
some country that like they just banned YouTube altogether because there was so much information on that platform that they couldn't filter it out.
The EU tried to ban memes.
Oh, Article
Yeah.
13.
Yeah, that's the closest thing to that. Like,
Here's like the coolest part and like also the most dangerous part about social media.
Memes.
Not memes, but the spread of information and how quickly it is. I say, hey everyone, vote for me for homecoming, right? I'm in college. Why am I gonna run for like some high school homecoming? Yeah, I already have like 4 people who. Well, it's not a lot. But I've already
Vote for
got
Kevin,
like
ladies and gentlemen.
70 people have already seen my story, and then 4 more people are probably sharing it with another 70 or more. Suddenly, like hundreds of people have already seen my post of saying, "Vote for me for social media" or for homecoming,
Vote for
and
me.
it's the spread of really misinformation. Because even though, I mean, yeah, it's a cool, funny joke. It's this idea that I could basically say whatever I want, and people are going to spread that information if I say, please spread this information. So, like, we can take Hurricane Dorian, for example, the one that just came by. We know that people evacuated from the coastal area to somewhere more inland to be safe. But more importantly, for those first responders, they might be using social media as a platform to get that aid of knowing where to go to where to, help people. We have like this one, hey, I don't know where my family's been. This is their address. Can you please check on them?
Facebook does that a lot.
Yeah.
The checking in, like for your family or whatever.
Especially
Yeah.
with like,
There's
earthquakes.
even apps like Life 360 that they
Yeah.
But then there's also people that spread the misinformation for whatever gain they want from either just notoriety. I don't know if I said that right.
Notoriety, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe they are just so in shock that they're giving the wrong information or not enough information. They say, hey, my friend's over here. Can you go check on them? But the friend's right beside them. They're like away from the disaster area. And now the first responders are going to this empty house because they said that the friend was there even though the friend was never there. So we get this mix of, hey, we can use social media to do some really good things to help out a lot of people. But we also get these trolls, the people that are trying to cause mischief, to ruin that plan of helping people for their own.
Well, yeah, I mean, social media is most definitely a double-edged sword when it comes to things like that. You have the people who really use what the media is providing us to its full potential, and then those who just abuse it. I mean,
Use it for comedy.
yeah, or I mean, even danger at some points. Aiden, you have something? Okay.
I mean, okay. So, sorry, I've been
Yeah, no, you kind of like a
doing
kumbaya
something.
thing.
So there are definitely like very, like a lot of cons,
Right.
but I like to think of the internet as something that's good. And even though like majority of all media outlets just say like social media is bad, like why do we still have it?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just focusing only on the negative aspects of it. I mean, yeah, you can get jobs, you can form relationships, people get married just from meeting on the internet.
Right.
And
My mom met my stepdad on the internet.
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Parents met at a
Continue.
club.
But there's always bad things, and those bad things tend to do very, very much harm. For example, the mosque shooting. That was recorded live.
Oh, the New Zealand
Oh.
one? Yeah.
Yeah. If that wasn't streamed,
I mean, God, because it was on for like at least a week. What was it, Live Leaks? Live Leaks had it up for like a week and a half after the fact.
and Twitch was a platform that it was recorded on, and people already like that's where the whole like gamers are bad, because this kind of stuff happens to gamers, and it's actually a disease called gaming addiction. It's now classified as a disease by the WHO.
I mean, even streaming platforms can be dangerous.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
slaughter.
I mean,
Or wouldn't you say that him? I'm not saying anything good about that, but like, did him streaming it help them find him?
Oh yes, but at the same time, it shed light on the situation that like, hey, shootings are like bad, and we need to do something about
I mean,
that.
same could be said
Yeah.
for because didn't he post his oh god
Manifesto.
Yeah, on the internet. It was like a
Yeah, so,
90-page manifesto.
Yeah. In a case like that, I don't think they care about being caught. They just want to
They
spread
just
the
want,
message.
yeah, they just want to be known. I mean, because in the manifesto, because I read it, because I wanted to know what he was thinking and why he posted it. He was writing about things like, the only reason why he did the shooting was because something happened in Sweden. I think it was Stockholm, where a little girl was ran over, and the people who ran her over were related to a terrorist group, and so he did this whole round circle, Islam is matched with this terrorist group, and that was the whole reason why. One of the main reasons why, he said, oh, I don't affiliate myself with, white supremacists, although, I don't believe that these people should be invading our country. And so, he was really weird. But I mean, even those thoughts are dangerous to be putting on the internet, and even because people who do have those sensitive minds and are teetering the idea of like, you know, is Islam bad, or people that aren't white bad, you know, those different ideas that can cause toxicity within society. Having that out there could cause something bad to kind of erupt and like bubble, you know, and so.
Like the El Paso shootings recently. That man,
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot of the
so.
news outlets have come out saying that he confessed that he was inspired by Donald Trump, or like the ideas of Donald Trump, and like just people in that group, which I guess is
Well,
it's debatable whether Donald Trump
I mean, that
is
could've
a white
just him being a
supremacist
dick.
or whatever.
Well,
Yeah,
you can tie that
Yeah.
into Donald Trump and his Twitter. He's always going off, always saying something.
Yeah, he's
Weren't-
like
weren't
a
there two-
president that shit posts, but like in the most normie way possible.
but more like actually wasn't it like two shooters who confessed the whole Donald Trump thing, and then that's how the whole video game thing started, because they're
Yeah,
like
but the
New
thing,
Zealand,
but the
Twitch.
thing with that is, it could just be them being dickheads and knowing that Donald Trump is already in this kind of like bad light as it is, so they're just putting a nail in the casket and just being like, oh yeah, you know, I shot up this place because of Donald Trump, you know. So bringing him into the situation isn't necessarily as fair as, you know, more so, but it isn't necessarily as fair because when you think about it, what?
Him and his Twitter rants clearly do inspire people to do bad things. When he goes off on racist tangents and stuff, that does inspire bad thoughts among people. So, what,
I mean,
do you have something to say, Hunter? No? Okay, fine. I was just gonna say that him inspiring people as the president through Twitter platform does cause a sort of
A gathering of
But I
a
mean, that could
gathering.
be-
But
that-
like an
because,
awakening.
like,
But that could
okay,
be the same for anyone posting anything on social media. I mean,
Well, I think that's the point.
that's one of the. Oh no, yeah, you go.
It's
think,
just
think of Jake Paul and Logangers, dude. Think of
Yeah,
that.
like
They
when
can take
they
over
were
the
at
world
their
if they wanted
peak,
to.
bro, they had so many people like surrounding their houses, like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, it's Jake Paul and his brother Logan Paul, and everyone was just like, whoa, these two siblings, they're on social media, they've got a platform, and I see them, and I think they're cool, and I'm going to join like-minded people and do things that they do. And then you see, like, basically these people doing things in the name of, like, attention. Like, this is a long time, a couple months ago, where people would say, do it for the vine. Where people would do stupid things.
do it for the meme.
Or, yeah, people would do just the dumbest things to, you know, record it, post it online, and to get those views and, you know, like that attention that they so desperately want.
Yeah, but some of those things aren't all bad. Like the Ice Bucket Challenge, that was to raise awareness for ALS.
I mean,
I mean-
some things do have good intentions, but other things can inspire others for like that possibly die. For example, the Tide Pods, or filling a condom with water and putting it on top of your head. People have actually died from that, and
this you remember the condom challenge where they would have to sniff a condom and then
and
pull
put out
it
their mouth.
Yeah.
People choke and die.
Mhm.
People, or it's like you lose all like feeling in their nose. Or
You know, so
break their
actually-
nose.
I got a question. Sort of tying back to something like massive shootings and how fast they catch fire throughout the media, and then even something like Tide Pods and the condom challenge. Do you think that the media desensitizes us as a society to where we just become numb to things like that? We
Like-
don't necessarily think about the effects that it will have on other individuals.
I think that's an information overload, you know? Just because you get all this information, so many bad things, like, oh, this place burned down, this place got shot, this young child died. You see all these things, and then you see them again, and again, and again, and it's just so much.
Yeah, so the idea that we're being desensitized.
Yeah,
We see it so
we're
often.
absolutely being desensitized because there's such an information overload on us as people. We become less sensitive to things around us, which is why people, whenever they go online, they don't have that emotional connection as maybe they once did when they went online. They see all these bad things and they suddenly think it's okay for me to be mean to this one person because I think their hair is a little bit too short. And I'm bringing that back to cyberbullying. And it's just that people get so caught up with this idea of hey, man, I mean, I'm on social media. What are the consequences if this stuff happens and nothing gets taken care of it? And there's no good things, well, little to no good things coming out of it. I can be mean myself. And all these people are going on social media for their own try to grab of attention.
Yeah, so at this point, it's almost begs the question of what is the purpose of having media? If on one side of the spectrum we're seeing how people are living lavish lives and they have something that people want to drive for luxury rather than just living a good life in general, or on the other end of the spectrum we see things like massive shootings happening that are constantly uploaded on the media. You know, people are getting murdered, you know, within our communities. Fires are happening, protests are happening in other places in the world, and it's like everything's kind of falling apart and we're losing the good out of everything.
But seeing all those bad things happen, you don't think that inspires people? Like seeing the Amazon burn down, people saw it and they said, "Oh, we need action," and so they called on people to take action. The Hong Kong protests. That's if there wasn't like
if nobody if nothing like communication was reached out to like this area like where we are, then we wouldn't even know like that's going on. Like,
yeah, that's true. Well, I have a general question about the idea of information and the human experience in general. Do you think social media takes from the human experience or adds to it? Because I think one of the biggest things about being a human is gaining information and evolving with that information.
Yeah, so it's 50-50. Kind of why I asked the question in general, and I'm glad that you brought up something like the Amazon fire drill, because in a way it allows us to live the human condition in the sense that we can either be or not to be. You know, I want to be someone or I don't want to be someone, or in the sense that like we want to rise up and create action, and in the idea of something like the rainforest burning down, and like, you know, the environment's already going to hell, you know, I want to help out as much as I can. And so in a sense we're living the human condition as best as we can while we're off the media, but then we're kind of getting stripped of it on the media while also gaining something off of it. So it's a really hard question to answer. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, because I mean, I'm sure somebody has a really good idea, but just to me it's kind of it's really weird.
Do you think social media is essential?
It adds. Well, it's becoming essential, and there's no denying that. But for in terms of the human, you said human experience, was it?
Yeah, human experience, human condition.
So I don't think it adds to it or detracts from it. I just think it changes it.
I think it adds to it. You get to see more people outside of your sphere of influence. You get to interact with people you've never met before. You can learn things that you never would have thought to learn.
Seen things. You can see things
like the
you've never
Grand
seen
Canyon.
before.
I'm probably never going to see the Grand Canyon in my life, but those pictures, I swear those are some of like the most pretty pictures I've ever seen.
Yeah. But there's a lot of things on the internet that we can see that we can never see in person.
Why do you think you'll never see the Grand Canyon?
I just think it's not like in...
Like, what's stopping you?
The fact that, you know, broke college kid, and also...
I mean, but how old are you, 18, 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you still have a whole life to live, you know? It's allowing yourself to be so closed-minded in that sense that, like, I would never get to that idea is kind of that what feeds the fire of what social media does, you know? I mean, because what's stopping you from doing something like that?
What's the point of seeing... Okay, I'm just saying this in general, but, like, people have the idea of, like, why see when I can just get a picture of it?
Well, yeah, and it's like... And
in conditions like that, that's when I say it takes away from the human experience. Because if you just have a picture of it, it's not the same as going. But I mean, it can also, like I said, you can see things on the internet, especially social media, because that's where everyone is sharing everything that you will probably never see in your life. And if you do, then it's an absurd experience, like a bunch of beheadings.
But on the other hand, seeing...
Okay.
Because look, one of the mediums that a lot of like criminal organizations use in third world countries is they use social media to spread videos of people who cross them and they want to send a message, and they behead them live or on video.
But I mean, I think that's kind of a different topic.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about the politics of that. I'm just talking about...
No, not even the politics.
We're seeing things that we'll never probably see in person, especially if we live in a country...
But we're talking about beauty versus tragedy. You know, the beauty of nature and being able to see something like the Grand Canyon or the Aurora Borealis, you know, versus something like...
Aurora Borealis.
Or something like the tragedy of people being beheaded because they're homosexual in a Middle Eastern country, you know? So it's like, those are two completely different hemispheres of what we're talking about, you know? So, like, you shouldn't allow something like never being able to go to the Grand Canyon stop you because you can just see a picture of it. You know.
On the other hand, I would say that
Well, I guess
some people might see pictures and be inspired and be like, oh, there's beautiful things out there. I want to travel.
Which.
So it's a
It's
case.
100%
Well, I
valid.
guess it's like every other thing we've in philosophy. It's a case by case situation.
Yeah. It's
Because,
just fucking
Yeah,
wild.
Grand Canyon as compared to a picture of Mars, that a lot of companies are now. It's a thing that we
Yeah.
need to colonize this other planet because this planet's dying. An idea spread by social media. Whether it's right or wrong, that's up to you.
Well, in that case, should there be policies to kind of block what's on social media so
Censorship.
I wouldn't use
Well, I
that.
wouldn't say censorship.
Wasn't there a big thing going on about censorship?
Article 13.
Well, no, I thought it was something here as well.
Oh,
there was a-
Because I know it was a meme thing.
Yeah, with
there was
the
a-
pie,
Are
well,
you
there was a
talking about
couple
FCC
things.
with net neutrality? Because net neutrality was more
Oh,
about
yeah.
companies themselves
I know,
charging
But there
people
was a
to
Republican senator from, I want to say Florida, but that might not be
I
accurate.
think it is Florida.
He wanted to put restrictions on social media apps like Instagram and Snapchat that would stop the addiction of it because, some people
Ooh.
can get too attached to
Yeah.
it. So he wanted, I think, if I remember right, it was stopping stuff like streaks on Snapchat and the infinite scroll on the Explore page. And he went,
look it up. For
and it
you.
was to curb the amount of like child addiction to social media.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm
Ooh, a
Well,
quote by
for children, I think that's more on parents getting a screen in front of their children just to get them to be quiet or to sit down or calm down.
We
or
can't say
something.
that like parents are responsible for their upbringing of their own child.
See, that's so
But we
wild that you
can't
said
s-
that. Because the other day when I got a haircut, and even thinking about how I was growing up and how I would get haircuts and how my mom would go about getting me to get a haircut. So a dad was sitting with his kid and he had his kid in his lap and the kid was just watching something and didn't even care that he was getting his haircut, And even then, he put his kid down, they were walking to go out, and the kid was still looking at his father's phone. And I was thinking about when my mom would take me and my brother to get haircuts, I would refuse to get it, and my mom would she would not have it, she would hold me down, and I would almost say that it was a different experience, Obviously it was a different experience, but just seeing something like that and then comparing it to how I was raised, the generational gaps of how now we can put something in front of a child's face
I
and
think-
them be calmed down.
I think we definitely, our generation, born 2000, 2001, 1999, like that age range, we definitely have the best perspective on that because we grew up when that was barely coming out, so not everyone.
yeah.
I know I definitely did not have access to anything like that. There's a lot of kids our age. They grew up playing the Wii, they had the Nintendo DS and all that, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that, so it's not an absurd thing to see something like that because I'm aware that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting for us because we're now in the age of we're in the new age of technology.
Well, I think it's
technology.
interesting for us because at our point in our life, we were born where the technological age was just taking off.
Yeah.
So we were born
the
before
80s,
like
90s was kind of
major cell phones, like the smartphones,
Mhm.
existed. So we still had the quote unquote primitive technology.
Yeah,
Nowadays, it'd be
right.
considered that.
landline.
But then as we grew up, things like the iPhones became more popular and
more advanced.
more advanced,
mainstream.
almost more necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a coworker of mine, and he's super chill. But one of the things, one of his defining characteristics, in my opinion, is how he manages to avoid all social media, and not just social media, but technology in general.
Is he Amish?
He is not Amish. He's actually Catholic.
Oh.
What's the
yeah.
difference?
I was a
There's a big
Missouri
difference.
Republican,
One
by
is
the way.
lazy,
Kind
one
of
doesn't.
back to the Snapchat thing. It was a Missouri.
Missouri.
Republican.
But he owns a flip phone, right? And when he started working at Chick-fil-A, one of the main ways we get our schedule and change everything is to this application on our phones called Hot Schedules. And he, having a flip phone, had to go online on a computer, right? Which is a bigger hassle to do, to go online, change availabilities, request time off.
To even look at your schedule.
Yeah, versus some, because when I get in my email, it says, hey, your app, updated. I check it and I see my schedule, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. For him, he'd have to log on to his account every single time, and he doesn't always necessarily, he's very against, using computers and cell phones and things like that, which is why he has a flip phone. But it's interesting seeing him just say how much of a necessity these phones have become in both our work lives and also our social lives. Earlier today, we actually went to Panera Bread, right?
Right.
And while we were listening to the Beatles, I see you were driving, so I
Yeah, I
know
was
you couldn't
driving.
look at the phone. But then to my side, I see Sam scrolling through his phone. I see Adrian scrolling through my phone, and then this is me after I just finished recording something off my phone and just posted it on my social media. So I'm like, man, it's so many social interactions. It's almost like the phones and social media have become a pacifier to social interactions to try to make themselves feel better or not to
I
deal
love
with that
the way you
awkward
I like-
silence.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Definitely
that.
So
agree with
look,
that one.
okay, so that man, how much do you think he's behind? I guess the rest of us, because he's not involved in social media, and at this point, it's not even a debate whether it's
I
necessary.
mean, or
It is.
arguably, how is he ahead of us? You know,
Ahead. Well, there's a lack of information.
no, but in simplicity. So there was a guy named Richard Pernicky. So he, after it was one of I think it was Vietnam or something. So it was after one of these major wars. He came back home and he decided that he was tired of living in society. And so what he did was he went out into like
We live in a society.
absolutely nowhere in Alaska, the mountains of Alaska, and he lived there for 30 years. He was self-taught. He taught himself about nature, botany, all these things that he needed to live by himself. He did the woodwork that he had to build his log cabin, and he was just a self-reliant person. And he said that he had like. They said they found like 17 pounds of just writings of his daily journals. Every day he'd write something about what he did in his day. And it was just like, even though he wasn't a part of the society to, experience certain things like the advancement of technology, or experience something like what we do to entertain ourselves within society, it's almost arguably that, he had a more peaceful state of mind and almost was ahead of us in the sense that he found beauty in entertainment in something that wasn't as advanced as what we find beauty and entertainment in. Although he died in 2003, so he didn't really get to experience technology.
Wouldn't that be more of a getting back to your roots type thing? Because that sounds a bit primitive. And
Okay.
if you're talking about advancement, like being ahead,
I mean, when people don't want to be around social media, that's their choice. I mean, you aren't really forced to like become part of the social media network or any of the communities. I mean, that's just a thing that you yourself can do. Like, if I want to move out to Alaska, live there for the rest of my life
Yeah.
under a igloo, sure, I'll go do that.
Yeah, but I mean, then I guess what I'm arguing is it fair to say to call someone like Kevin's coworker behind us because he doesn't,
well,
he doesn't
I-
want to. He doesn't want to
okay,
Can I
participate.
have a
in
question,
that.
Kevin?
Yeah.
How does he get his news? Does he get news?
does he care?
Well,
Because you would think that's a religious thing, right?
yeah. So he's when
For
I say,
him specifically,
Yeah,
because I know what
yeah.
he's talking about.
yeah.
So for him specifically,
he's
Catholicism?
Yeah, so he's like a solid Catholic, but when I say Catholic, he's like trying to become a priest. Like
Oh, Sam.
he went to
okay.
like this place where there's a bunch of monks. I forgot what that's called.
Well, yeah, a bunch of
Monastery?
monks.
Yeah, like straight up. And well, I feel like when he needs to use social media, he does. But for
Yeah.
so many things,
and in some aspects,
monastery. That's what
Yeah,
it's called.
monastery.
Adrian just said
essential.
that.
Oh,
No, I looked it up.
it just
so
clicked on me because I was thinking
No,
about Skyrim.
that's the thing we're saying.
Sorry,
If there's times like
It-
even one time where he needs to use social media, that's essential in itself. And I say that he's behind because if he's not on social media, right? He's not getting all this instant information that we are. In terms of the human scope in general, advancing, evolving because of new information or just utilizing the information we already have, wouldn't that put him behind us?
Well, I mean, arguably yes, but he definitely seems very happy with his position in life.
And I feel like that's where the line should be drawn. If you're happy with the life
Happiness?
that, I mean, because that's where it really boils down to is if you're happy with not wanting to participate in something like social media and you're happy not doing that, then that should be,
That's
honorable. That should be something that should be praised. You're living a life without having to have your face in a phone, having to put your kid's face in a phone to keep them calm. That's something to tip your hat to.
Follow us on Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, we need at least one
Like and
shameless
subscribe
social
on
media.
YouTube. But I mean, it's just that idea that him not having and relying on something like that for day-to-day life and really
Yeah, it's all-
participating in something like that, that's cool. That's,
So it's
that's
just his
good on him.
subjective happiness. It's not.
Exactly. And
I mean, yeah.
that's
He
what
made a
it's about.
choice to just not associate with social media.
And he's
I mean,
happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, I can just delete everything right now. Would I be behind?
Yeah.
I mean,
You're a
read the
college kid.
newspaper.
No, but the funny thing is, like, even
Newspapers are actually dying.
Yeah,
because-
newspapers.
Yeah.
Because why are you gonna focus on Augusta Chronicle? Apparently, there's a new Panera
Yeah.
being built. You know.
Why yeah, but that's the thing about newspapers. Why do you want the news of yesterday when you can have the news of now and sometimes even
In the
tomorrow?
future, yeah.
On the innocent actions. And look, email I think would count as social media, right? Because it
Yeah.
started as a social platform,
Direct
right?
Yeah, AOL.
Some of our classes are hybrid classes. Some of our classes are online classes. It is essential.
Well, maybe there was
We
more
need
of a
things like
respect for
that.
the news then, because like you said, why would we want the news of yesterday when we can't get the news of today? Maybe people were itching for that. They were waiting for it. This is cool to read in the newspaper. This is what's happening in these different parts of the world. Can't wait to see what's going on today. Get to tomorrow and you figure out what was going on yesterday. There's almost more of a respect.
I mean, there is one issue that I do see with that
Oh,
is
go
the
for
fact that people who are trying to go for these types of people who are sorry people who are so focused on the news of today and the news of tomorrow often look at CNN, NBC, Fox, BBC, these different news channels, and they look at news around the world and their nation. And most of the time, they forget about the news that is happening more locally, which is what the newspapers tend to be for.
Mhm.
So people miss out on both state and mostly local information that would be good to know, because they're so focused on looking at CNN, the news headline. Oh, hey, that church in France is burning.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
that church.
that church in France.
Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. I forgot the name.
Notre
Dame.
Dame.
Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. I remember it now.
That was Kevin Acevedo, by the way, who forgot the name of Notre Dame. Just throwing that out there.
No,
Fake
it's okay.
fan.
I had a baguette
Fake
earlier
fan,
today
bro.
from Panera. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
basically French.
Okay.
No, but like I'm saying is people forget of the local news. Like, I mean,
I think
two of us.
I think that's why it's important to stay logged on, because social media is not just major, companies of the world. It's our family, it's our friends, people in our community, right? So someone like that, whether he's behind or not, I guess that's subjective to his own happiness.
Yeah.
But for
And
the
I guess
rest
that's
of
what I
the-
was really going for.
Yeah.
Or in general,
Subjective
I can agree with you
happiness.
that he's behind it in general because he's not getting up to date as much as people. With
But I mean,
social
I feel
media.
like that's a sacrifice that shouldn't really be important to any of us because, I mean,
It doesn't affect us.
yeah, it's his decision, and I think that's a cool life to live. Honestly.
Going back to the necessity of technology, as you were saying, people definitely rely on it for relationships and stuff, and people get like I said, already got married due to the fact
Oh
that
yeah, they meet on Tinder.
they meet on
Oh,
even
God.
World of Warcraft.
Moko Space.
Hey, don't at me like that.
Yeah, but
Club
I mean,
Penguin.
Club
Club Penguin.
Bring back Club Penguin.
But
Back up.
I mean, I don't know. It's so society's gotten so weird when it comes to what we do with social media, and I don't know how to fathom it really because it's like.
I think we're at a loss right now.
Yeah,
Well, not at a loss. We're we kind of reached an impasse mentally because, I mean, talking about this, I guess the whole philosophy behind social media, there's so much.
I mean, and the only reason why we have it is
And-
for that spread of news.
Yeah,
but
one thing that I say about one thing that I think about social media that's definitely true is that it's good at, while there is a lot of information out there, the way the companies handle it, it's kind of good in a way because they condense the information and they personalize it for us.
Yeah, right.
So like the Nielsen.
But I mean, they
measurement.
also hide a lot of things from us too to make sure
Yeah,
that we're
it's
kind of we
basically-
have blinders on.
Every aspect of social media is both good and bad.
Oh,
Communication. Wow, it's really convenient to talk to one person, but communication can spread false information, or they can hook you and then do something.
Unsolicited screenshots.
Yeah.
Media
Hold
streaming
on.
in general, man. You can definitely pursue education just through watching videos of people dying or illegal pornography, all that kind of stuff. You get reach
Wait,
out.
But,
you said pursue
So
education.
Yeah,
Oh, but just
As in-
information
as in-
in general.
information
Oh,
in general.
Oh,
They're-
so
they're
be
It's their own
educated.
self-education.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about education, there's stuff like Khan Academy where they actually give you information that you can use and stuff. And
Oh,
it
yeah,
helps
but I
Well,
mean-
okay, so here's one thing I remember learning in my time back in high school.
All those years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
Someone was talking about how every time we get this new piece of technology, a new piece of social media, a new way to advance ourselves, there will always be that same technology used negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's been like that for all of time.
Nuclear bombs.
Yeah, once two people have it, suddenly like you gotta be careful, or else there's gonna be a nuclear war.
Nuclear winter.
Well, you have a nuclear war
yeah.
first.
Yeah, that's why. So, I think the whole idea of social media, like, I think the idea of information transcends it a little bit because, are we really talking about social media here? Or are we talking about information in general? Because I think social media is just a medium for our own personal informations, like our own personal lives, display of life or display of relationships.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
damn. I mean, yeah.
People do like to flex, you know. They're
the media and the
Yeah.
social media.
They're like, check out this. Like, I recently, Grovetown, Georgia, man. It's a growing city in Georgia. Yeah, I agree with that because of, Fort
making a
Worth,
Panera.
because of cybersecurity and all that. But, like, yeah, they added a Panera in Grovetown.
But
But,
they
like,
also added 4 collision centers.
yeah, and I saw a mutual friend of ours. Let's just use the word friend. He posted a picture of someone in a Bentley in Grovetown, Georgia. This city is like 2.5 hours away from Atlanta, Georgia, right? The place you would possibly maybe expect to see a Bentley if you're under the right conditions, So, I think social media is a good display of life, but what we're talking about here is the idea of information in general, information and knowledge. And I think that transcends that.
I mean, information on social media is definitely not the same as information that you can get at like in a
Like
like
education.
an educational facility, you know.
Well, I feel like they're two different entities. One's more scholarly and academic, and one's more societal and street smart.
One looks good on your resume and one doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
Yeah, what looks better, a degree or your Instagram handle on your resume, right? I guess it depends on the job
the
you're
handle's
looking
pretty
for.
sick. Then
Yeah, at Architects and
See,
Kings.
but like with how society's progressed, if you want to be something like an influencer, that is a job now.
Yeah,
If-
that is. That's
and
a
that
career.
In your resume is more likely to be your Instagram bio than going to college. So it just depends on what you're trying to do.
So social media is definitely creating new jobs and adding, I guess, to the world economy,
new
just
jobs.
economy in general.
Wait,
Yeah, influencer. The job of
Yeah,
an influencer,
influencers.
personal handlers of like an influencer's page or something. Because a lot of times they don't do it themselves.
yeah.
I mean, they might start up doing it themselves or whatever. Instagram. I think Instagram's the biggest one. Instagram influencers, right? But
Right.
at some point, it gets to a point where they're so busy that they get other people to handle it for them, right?
That's so weird to me. Like influencers can make that much money
Yeah,
just
I know.
just for having a media outlet where someone who's like academic. And,
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing as just providing entertainment. It's like watching a TV show.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So is social media more of an essential human tool, or is it more for entertainment?
Entertainment.
That's
100%.
Definitely. I mean,
No,
this-
social media is entertainment. Media is where the outlet for information comes
Mhm.
from. Because there's a fine line between both. I mean, hence why social media versus media. Media is the thing that will give us our news, and social media will give us our entertainment.
well, here,
So are
let's
you
go back
int-
to the definition of
Yeah.
social media.
I'll go for it. Yeah.
Forms of electronic communication, such as websites for social networking and microblogging, through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content, such as videos.
So even
So-
the news online is a form of social,
Social
media.
media.
Yeah, as long
I
as
think-
one person.
I think the-
microblog.
I don't know.
You
what
think
that
the
is.
news is a microblog?
That's like talking about Tumblr or something. That's not a news source. That says communication through information through websites.
Form of electronic communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages.
So
and
even if it's not a news outlet itself, it's the people who follow and who are subscribed to that news outlet who spread the links, spread the information.
If
That's
you
like the
subscribe to
Salon
CNN or
podcast.
you subscribe to
Salon
Fox,
podcast, yeah.
that's social media,
Mhm.
yeah.
which
So-
is a media outlet.
I
So
suppose
it's necessary
it's-
for both
oh, yeah.
information and entertainment.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all just
More, it's mostly used just for entertainment.
Well, I feel like it's optimal uses for
Mhm.
entertainment because even though yes you can spread news, which is not exactly entertainment, but still it's important. I feel like the miscommunication of that news, the misleading titles, because the companies that are trying to give this news also have to make money, so they're trying to get things that people want to click, which is why we don't get all the news that we want unless we have to actively search for it. You know.
Well, that's kind of an issue with clickbait and how.
Clickbait.
I mean, it is because the companies have to make a revenue, and from my understanding, they base that revenue off of the amount of views and clicks that their page gets.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So by making their page more like click worthy, by making it like top 10 things you wouldn't believe, number 7 will shock you, that seems more interesting than just like.
Top 10 anime portrayals.
That
That's
actually
what.
is interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds
I mean, that's why like
interesting.
Watch Mojo is
Watch
kind of so
Mojo.
popular because they have very clickbaity
Oh,
titles.
BuzzFeed, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
BuzzFeed
BuzzFeed,
too.
yeah.
BuzzFeed's ridiculous.
But
when it
like
comes
I'm
to stuff
saying,
like that.
this platform, social media, shouldn't be a platform for really anything but entertainment, because I feel like that would be its best use. When people try to perform serious businesses on social media, like in order to communicate to make money, that's when you lose that feeling of someone trying to share information rather than someone's trying to make a business.
Well, I think that's
online.
more people capitalizing on entertainment. If that makes any sense. Like they're just like they're entertaining people, but they don't care about entertaining people. They care about making their money.
That's what I brought up earlier. in the
Which is why some
discussion,
people
where-
would
yeah.
are willing to sacrifice like the quality of it for quality for quantity, so that way more stuff gets put out, more money comes in, which I don't think should be the case. I feel like social media and content creators should create content, quality content rather than quantity.
Adrian, you were gonna say something. You
Yeah,
had,
I
like,
cut
your
you off.
finger
I
in the air.
apologize about that.
I actually don't remember what I was gonna say, but
Nice.
I was looking through social media statistics.
Oh, okay,
and
word.
So, fun fact: out of a survey of 252 million people, there was about 78 to 79% of those people are on social media and consistently use it. Above the other side of the 22 to 21%, they probably hardly ever use it, but that doesn't mean they don't stop use. I mean, they don't ever use it. I mean, they would possibly go into like an internet cafe or a place where they can access the internet, such as like a library or something public, and access information like that. But that's about it.
Yeah, so I think what this discussion really boiled down to is what you guys and what we think
is the main purpose, one, of social media, two, the ethicality of it, of social media, whether or not it's ethical or not, three,
Whether it's the new frontier for humans.
yeah, yeah,
Space.
most certainly.
That's why I wanted to say that.
What, outer space?
No, about like social media being like a new
New
frontier.
frontier for
Oh,
humans.
right, yeah, I mean,
But I kept thinking about space, and I feel like I gotta give
Yeah.
credit
That's
to
the
space.
next-
Well, I'm not
Next
talking.
frontier.
Well, I'm not talking about like
Mars.
pursuing, where we live. I'm talking about just society is going to be run by social media soon, or it's going to be based off like back then. It used to be when books started coming out.
God.
Yeah, people started. It's basically a game of information. When books started coming out, we weren't like relying on what other people said right away. We're writing on what's written, right? And then as everything progresses, film starts coming out, like auditory recordings, then the internet, social media.
Social media is also a good way to spread business. I mean, 90% of brands use social media as a platform to advertise their own business.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Some of them don't-
90%.
Yeah, some of them don't even have advertising outside of social media.
that's insane.
That is
Wow.
insane. So what were you gonna say, Drew?
I was gonna say that when you're talking about when books first came out, I'm pretty sure that was like thousands of years ago or whatever.
Hashtag my boy
That's what I
Martin
mean.
Luther.
It's like the new platform. But I think just to wrap things up.
Yeah, so to kind of closing thoughts. So let's go around and get some closing thoughts. So do we? Yes, Kevin, you started this. So what do you think towards the end of all this? Do you think social media is a yay or a nay?
I feel like it's a yay that hasn't become a nay. That we can make a yay again.
Alright.
Distracted from distraction by distraction. T.S. Eliot.
Ready, Drew? Yay or nay?
Yay! It's got mostly positives, I believe, and that even though there are negatives to it, the positives of seeing entertainment and information outweigh that negative aspect of it.
All right, Sam, yeah,
Well, I say yay in the just because of the idea of information, whether the ethics of it, you know, whether something someone does on social media is good or bad. I don't think that matters, but I think it's essential to, I guess, the human experience that we keep pursuing what we're pursuing, because information is really what's going to get us to where we want to go.
Yeah, Adrian.
Honestly, I'm gonna agree with Kevin here, Andrew at the same time, because they both believe, yeah, the internet's great, and social media is an awesome thing, but there are very much downsides. But those positives definitely outweigh the negatives, and that we kind of really do need social media, even any type, like having a flip phone, like Kevin's coworker, or going to a library, like two or three times a week just to look what's going on and that kind of stuff. I mean, we definitely need social media in this age in order to keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, I'm definitely teetering on the yay and nay, you know, with the idea that media definitely provides us with wonderful things, but at the same time, you know, it could be at some point the downfall of us, you know, whether we allow that to consume us in ways that, you know, aren't healthy.
What about you? Oh, my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, okay. I mean, the final thing is whether or not, you know, the audience listening at home or whatever you're deciding to take place listening to this, you guys think yay or nay with the idea of whether or not social media is a good or not, you know? So
It's kind of mostly an open-ended question, though, because
I
this
wanna
entire
keep it
conversation,
This
there's
is very
no one
open-ended.
direct answer, even though this is what we do believe.
we teetered yay or nay. So
What do you think the general question would be then?
the general question?
Is social media an essential part of human life?
Yeah.
I guess that's the
Definitely.
open question. That's what we've kind of been trying to answer.
Definitely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please continue to leave any comments that you want to. You know, make sure that, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Whether that be through our social medias, our Instagram, the comments on YouTube. Just keep doing what you're doing. Maybe give us an idea for next week's topic. We could try to do a audience ran one. See if you guys want to give a stab at that. But for now, I think that's good for us, and we're gonna close it out. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome day.